Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Hamid Elamir, and I am the host of podcast with Dr. E. At this podcast, I sit with the world's experts in health, education, and community involvement to talk about current health challenges and ask them to share their experience, knowledge, and insight with all nations across the world so that we can learn from experts across the globe. Today, I have an amazing guest with us on the show. Dr. Manu Bolliger is with us. Welcome, Dr. Manu.
Well, thank you, and I'm really thrilled to be on your show.
It's an honor to have you on the show today. Dr. Manu Bolliger is a naturopathic medical doctor and CEO of Bowen College, where she has trained over 2,500 healthcare practitioners in her methodology. Dr. Manu helps people take ownership of their choices in health. The best selling author of What Patients Don't Say If Doctors Don't Ask, she helps people release chronic physical and emotional pain by helping them focus on their health noses and not their diagnosis. She has spoken on international stages like JT Fox's Money, Health, and Business, and also on TEDx in Las Vegas. She is the host of the Healers Cafe podcast and has appeared on ABC, CTV, and NBC. While recovering stage 4 cancer without pharmaceutical or a hysterectomy, she discovered that we are accustomed to thinking that conflict resolution is mediated externally. But when it comes to health, it is an internal process. She has pioneered the a healer in every household movement, embracing the body's capacity to heal and the choice to govern our lives. Her new book, A Healer in Every Household: Simple Solutions for Stress, has just been launched in October 2020. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show, Dr. Manu.
Well, thank you. I think we have lots of things we can talk about.
Of course. Um, I'm pretty sure this conversation is going to be a very interesting conversation, and a lot of my audience were waiting for such programs and such, conversations to learn. And I'm pretty sure that you have a lot to share, as you just mentioned. And reading your bio, it's really impressive in what you do, and your work is inspiring. So let's get started with the very first question, and I know that is very important to you as well as it is very important to myself personally to know what is your why. So why you do what you do?
Mm, yeah, I think without a why, it's very hard to put in the sheer amount of energy, work
Right.
to really accomplish something. And if you're the bigger your dreams, the more you have to absolutely love what you do. And for me, I think it's a different dream that came through when I decided to found the college, Bowen College, than when I started my practice 30 years ago. Um, Something happened during my practice where I realized that I never wanted to hear ever again a patient say, I wish I knew about this work. And so it changed sort of my mission from helping one on one, which I mean, I love and I miss my patients. I miss being able to have that level of contact. And the mission being to really reach more people, train practitioners, get this work out in a much bigger way, uh, because I'm not the only person who can do this. It's a simple, and I mean simple because healing is not complicated. If we're triggering the body to do what it knows best, it doesn't take a lot. That's really like a mindset issue that we think, oh, we have to do all this work. We don't. We have to support the healing process, and this work works through the body. So there's a context to health. So there's always an environmental, mental, emotional uh, aspect to all healing situations. But the body has a unique way that we can reach and talk to the body, that makes massive changes. And so, anyhow, so that's why my why was
Mhm.
to reach more people ultimately. And why is because once people understand that we are not broken, that
Mhm.
we really have beautiful, perfect little bodies that occasionally have our wires crossed, that sometimes we're missing things like the right nutrients, or we're missing aspects, support, whatever it is, that once we fix this, our bodies are programmed to heal. And I
Mhm.
just feel like if more people knew this, they would take better care of themselves, and it would really change the world around. It would change many things if we took care on that
Uh,
level.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I also believe that healthcare providers are meant to impact millions of people, not only, a small circle around us at a hospital or private practice. And you say that you started that, and that's why you were why to reach to more people. And to more people, do you mean the healthcare providers, or do you
Well,
mean
both. I
general
mean,
people?
yeah, both, because I needed to teach or to train more trainers that
Mhm.
then could train more practitioners
Right.
that could then reach out to more people that needed this work. And when I first started, it's like, where can I go? And people were having to fly in, and it's like, this is
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Right.
Find me a practitioner in your area, let me train them, and then you'll have somebody local. And so it sort of started very grassroots,
Mhm.
just by the results. And so that's what I mean is
Okay.
ultimately the end user
Right.
to benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the more people you train, the more people they can reach, and then that will, multiply, and then you will reach more people,
Mm.
and in the general public. So I mentioned in your bio and your expertise as you went to med school, you focused on uh, slightly different part of medicine, which is not the conventional one, but it's naturopathic. And some of my audience probably will hear naturopathic medicine for the first time. And could you just please explain, just maybe, briefly tell about what is
Yeah,
naturopathic and
absolutely. And I'm glad you're asking that question, because it does vary in different parts of the world. And
Mhm.
there are places that just say natural medicine, and there is actually no medical background. Whereas in a licensed country where naturopathic medicine is licensed, you do your pre-med, you do all of the same basic medical understanding. So you take microbiology, you learn how to X-rays, you learn how to do all the diagnosis. Everything is the same on the understanding, except for the solution. So even though we can prescribe pharmaceutical drugs, we're also able to prescribe Chinese medical herbs, or do acupuncture, Chinese medicine, do nutrition, which is typically not taught. I don't know why, but in many medical schools, that's one of the biggest complaints I've had. It's foundational to our health, and yet it's not part of the curriculum. And we can also do homeopathy and manipulation. So like chiropractic, but we call it naturopathic chiropractic. So it's like multidimensional. There's different aspects, and psychology, so that we understand the whole body like generalists, but we are able to offer solutions that are typically more natural and sometimes more gentle.
Mhm. Great. That's a great way to put it. It's clear. I'm pretty sure for a lot of our audience. And so you mentioned that you don't write prescriptions like medications, pharmaceutical kind of medication,
Yeah, I mean,
but it's
again,
you do prescribe to your patients, like, some natural like treatments.
Yeah, and like, again, there's a reason for everything. So
Mhm.
for me, it's not like, one thing is terrible and everything else is better. It's not like that. It's that if something gets overused or used with the wrong, in my mind, the wrong
Right.
idea, if we're just
Mm.
covering up or bandaging symptoms, whether you do that naturally or artificially, you're not really working with the body. So if you give natural, anti-inflammatories or synthetic um, anti-inflammatories, you're not asking why is the body inflamed. You're not actually going to the root cause. So it's not so much natural or not natural. It's really understanding why the body expresses dis-ease, not being
Mm.
comfortable with itself, why we have symptoms. And by looking at that, often we can get to a root cause that if we can treat it naturally, all the better, because we know that many times in small amounts, natural um, can be less harmful than taking synthetic drugs. We've seen that.
Mm.
So it's worth knowing an alternative. And sometimes it's not even coming in the form of a drug, right? Or a
Mm.
natural substance. It can be like Bowen therapy, which is a treatment way of
Mm.
dealing with
Yeah.
inflammation.
Well, I definitely have questions about Bone College, and I do want to know what Bone College is. And but before that, I just wanted to know, like, what as you mentioned, the differences in conventional medicine and naturopathic. And I am a big fan of like doing things naturally. And honestly, I am not in favor of taking medications. Although I did medical school, in conventional medicine, and I did, when it's needed. Of course, I have written prescriptions. I don't practice right now, and I focus on community health and public health practices now. But the natural way of fighting against diseases, or how our body responds um, to inflammation, as you just mentioned, for example,
Mhm.
is really important, especially when it comes to health. And by definition, health is not just physical well-being; it's also social and mental. So we have to be cautious to see all aspects and see health from different angles, and making sure that all the aspects of health are focused on, at least equally. If not, you don't want to focus on one part and not and forget about the other part. um in line with that, we just mentioned, what do you think of integrating, how important it is to integrate other branches of medicine into conventional medicine, such as, like, naturopathic and functional medicine? And a lot of physicians I had on the show now are also focusing on functional medicine. That is an extra,
Mhm.
sorry, certification that they would do. And that really helps, because when I was doing my residency, and even a lot of other physicians who are my friends in conventional medicine, the first question would the patient would ask after you prescribe something would be like, what is good for me to eat, and what is good for me not, what is not good for me to avoid it. And I know that naturopathic and functional medicine can contribute a lot in that regard. So, what is your take on that, and how important it is to integrate these branches into conventional medicine?
Well, I think it's essential because it's actually like merging two paradigms in a kind of way. One of them is focused on disease management,
Mm.
and the other one is really on prevention and root cause. So, for example, if let's say a person suffers from depression,
Mm.
if you go from the what I would call the allopathic perspective, so we're going to see there's a belief that there's a brain dysfunction, and we're going to then test and follow up, but test different substances to deal with or calm the mind. If we're looking at it from a functional medicine and naturopathic perspective, then we're saying, well, where in the body do neurotransmitters get created? Well, in our gut, right? 70% of them are actually in our gut. So, how important is the gut flora? And what keeps the gut flora healthy? Oh, maybe what we eat. So then we're starting to think, okay, now what foods are good for you? Because there's not one size fits all.
Right.
You know, we have different ethnicities, we have different habits, we have cultural imprints on our health. Like, so all of this, you can't just say, oh, eat this type of diet. In general, though, if you eat a diet that doesn't have a million preservatives and that isn't full of those words that start with dye, if you look at the list, you know, if they're fresh, ideally organic, because you don't want a whole bunch of pesticides or Roundup or whatever, you know, on the foods you eat. But if you take good care of the earth and then you eat the proper foods in your gut, and you eat with the right appreciation of food in the peaceful way, not just junk fooding it or hurrying the food, but if you enjoy the experience of it, all of this matters. And this changes the gut flora, which then changes the receptors of your brain for receiving feel good hormones instead of, you know, stress hormones. So all of this is very important to look at the whole picture of the person and look at us as an integrated whole. And that's why I invented the word health gnosis, because it didn't exist. So I was saying, yeah, let's
Yeah,
measure how healthy we are. That's the point.
exactly. So yeah, just elaborate a little more on that. That was very interesting when I read in your bio, health gnosis, not diagnosis. And some people, when it comes to the word hospital in different languages, it has different meanings and
Right.
different way of explaining that. Some places it actually, I heard that in some languages it means that, you know, a place where, like in Farsi, which is my native language, they call it shifakhana, which means the place where you cure. And the in certain languages it means different. It has a different meaning. The hospital itself, and sometimes it is like, you know, it it kind of like gives a message to people that it is a place where you are feeling sick or you know, ill, and then you have to be here, which makes sense. When people get sick they go to the hospital, but why not, you know, just make it a place where you would feel healthy or comfortable or something, like, you know, just turn it around. And as
Mm,
you were mentioning about health noses, yeah,
mhm.
just please elaborate a little
Yeah,
more on that.
no, no.
It's
So
very interesting.
yeah, I mean, I just to add to your point, but like for me, hospitals also, like it could, from the French, it's also hospice, right? It's a
Mhm.
place to take care of people. The
Right.
question is, when do you go there? Do you go there with a chronic disease that really could easily be managed
Mhm.
and prevented with many lifestyle changes much earlier so that you never end there?
Mhm.
We tend to do emergency medicine for non emergencies. We just wait till things get bad enough.
Right.
And that's the idea, that the problem I have with the not the art of diagnosing, but a diagnosis is so tied to a prognosis
Mhm.
that people think, oh, they have this, it means they will end up in a wheelchair or they'll end up with whatever it is. So they don't feel they have agency. They don't know that they could change. They don't know that there are other things in life, other therapies, other people, and that actually could have other solutions for them. So they go down this one passage thinking that there's no hope. And so health gnosis for me was the idea of turning that around. Let's focus on what health is to you. What does it mean? And what can you do to maintain it? What are the ingredients of health? And so, really, it's about making sure that you have the support emotionally and physically for maintaining your body at an optimal state. And if you get sick or something happens, if it's truly, or like a car accident, you go to the hospital because maybe people can heal their broken leg on their own, but I've not seen it. So I don't want to put a damper there because there's probably somebody who has. I've heard people heal their backs, in the jungle on their own, but let's say it's not common practice. So I think there's a place for going. But if we were to, or even in times where there's viruses that are loose and crazy, again, we have choices. We can wait till we are absolutely at the end and then go to the hospital, or we can look at what can we do to strengthen our immune system. What are things that make us more resilient or stronger? Right. So again, it's the idea that if we are strong, we're much less likely, and that's why with health hypnosis, we can actually see what is ideal for us. So we can stay stronger, as opposed to just thinking life happens to us. It doesn't. I mean, it happens for us.
Yeah, exactly. And based on what you just mentioned, it kind of like, made me ask this question, which is when it comes to conventional medicine and different specialties in health and medicine that people go, when they have issues with the heart, they go to a cardiologist. If it's a kidney, they go to nephrologist, and children will be taken to pediatricians, and likewise the other ones. And in naturopathic, of course, in the conventional medicine also, there's that, routine checkups like every 6 months or annual checkups, and based on the signs and symptoms, and they would be doing all the lab exams and stuff like that. I was just wondering, what would you do, like as a naturopathic medicine specialist, and how would you approach the patients and the clients? What would be some of the ways that you can evaluate them?
Okay, so I'm going to answer from a Canadian perspective, because I'm sure it's a little bit different in different countries.
Right.
So we do have a time limit that we can spend with our doctors, and we can only come with one symptom at a time. So it's like one body part or one symptom, and then we have to come back and talk about the next symptom. So just the way it's set up, and this is nothing to do with the doctors who, we know, I have not yet met a doctor that doesn't go into medicine to help people. So that's not the issue. It's the system problem of how things are managed. So you would come in and, like you say, well, okay, there's problem, you have creatinine levels that are high. Okay, let's go now. You go to a kidney specialist or whatever you'll go to a specialist. That's what would be in allopathic medicine. In naturopathic medicine, we would test like the same basic work that you would do in allopathy. We might test more things, like we routinely test vitamin D because we know of the importance of that. So we have things that, or C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker. So we tend to test a few more things that we know can change with the therapies we use. Right. So it's also how we interpret the similar blood work. We look at it from, there's a sign here. We're seeing a pattern here that there's a weakness in the link. So we're looking at how can we make the person stronger so that the weakness doesn't fully manifest. So I think diagnostically it's similar, just our response to it is different.
I see. Okay, yeah. In other words, you see deeply, like you see other factors that play a role and could be neglected
Correct.
in a, on a regular kind of
Yeah.
checkups. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And here we also do physical exams, which a
Mhm.
lot of doctors no longer do.
Mm,
They do spot checks. But the thing is, you can have a cancer growing on your back, which you would
mhm,
never complain about because you don't see it. you know.
mhm.
So
Right.
I think it's we've taken the place that the old-fashioned um, doctors used to have in the country, where they would get to know the family,
Mhm.
they would understand the circumstance, they were like trusted advisors. And I
Right.
think the way it's run, it's changed, right?
Mhm.
Doctors just can't do that
Yeah.
anymore because of the time constraints and everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's very important. I mean, regardless of the challenges and a lot of routine exams and doctor's visits can happen now through online and because of the COVID. And even with the without the COVID, like before COVID, with the EMR and EHR and these everything with the medical records and computerized, some people really feel the lack of that trust and bonding with the physician and patients. And as you said, like even knowing their family, and because at the end of the day, we are all human beings are very social animals, as they call so say so. We are meant to interact and communicate, and that solves part of probably a major part of the problem. And let me um, ask you a question about the Bowen College, which I'm sure that a lot of our audience heard about the Bowen College, and that's your passion, also what you do. And please tell us a little more about Bowen College and what do you do there, and what does it include?
Okay. Well, let's say the premise is that the body is smarter than you think. That's
Mhm.
number one.
Right.
So we tend to think, we know better and it's all in our mind and we do this and we do that. And the truth that I've noticed is that if you give the body information, the body can run with that, because deeply we are literally programmed to heal.
Mhm.
So many times, for example, and just to say what Bowen therapy is, it's a gentle cross fiber manipulation. So it's a simple. I'll try to raise my hand so you can see them, but a
Mhm.
simple touch where we do little moves like this that trigger different proprioceptive parts in the body. We work through the fascia, through the free nerve endings as well,
Mhm.
that um, give this information throughout our body, right? So through the fascia, we have I look at it like a physiological, yes, internet of connectivity. And
Mhm.
it just spreads information that is chemical, biological, and emotional throughout our body. So if you take, let's say, the patient who has a car accident and they don't break a leg, okay? So they're not in the hospital, they just are very sore, or they have like torticollis, or they have whiplash, or something like this. And if they went to see, and I'm just comparing to give an idea, because I believe that different strokes for different folks, and all therapies have at the right time in the right place for the right person, are really important. But let's say you have this accident. If you go to see a physiotherapist, they're going to try and train the muscles. If you see a massage therapist, they're going to um, I guess massage, which really actually inflames the tissue, at least temporarily, but it doesn't reset the whole body. If you see a chiropractor, well, now they're careful not to do the neck, for example, because there's a lot of risk with that. If you do Bowen therapy, what you're doing is you're telling the body that it's safe. You're taking the trauma out of the body, because you're putting people in parasympathetic state. And that's the state where all healing takes place. So when we've had a major stress, we're on sympathetic overload, right? And our bodies can't heal in that state, which is why we see so many times people who have gone for months, sometimes years, to other therapists, they haven't released the trauma. And you can say, well, you're alive, look at it better. Sure. But the body has got a shock in it. And until you can release that shock, it just can't heal efficiently. And so I would say that that's one of the most exciting uh, parts for me to see is, well, ideally to see them before they spend 2 years
Mhm.
losing hope, but it's to be able to allow the body to reset. And then it's fairly easy for the body to heal, but you have to give it that holistic perspective. And this is through touch. This is what the amazing piece about
Right.
this.
That's very interesting. Also with the you, I was wondering what else, like in the in training wise at the Bowen College, since that is a training an
Ability, yeah.
academic area. What would you do with your students, and is it they're getting certified for Bowen College, and then how can they help communities and other people.
Yeah, so I mean, we have it's a full holistic program,
Hmm.
not as in depth as a medical program, because you don't need that level of knowledge to do this work.
Hmm.
It's simple, so no point complicating it. And we educate on nutrition, we educate on Chinese medicine, at least meridians, because fascial lines and meridian lines are pretty well the same lines.
Hmm.
And we also talk about the doctor-patient relationship, the importance of the context of healing. So we have all of the parts of listening to the patient, but listening to helping the patient listen to their own bodies. And then we do the hands-on therapy itself, which the first part is called Reboot. It reboots the entire body, and you do the lower body, the upper, the neck, you do the whole body.
Hmm.
And that's what brings people into that relaxed state. And then we have specific moves that we can add later, if they have like frozen shoulder or sciatica or TMJ problems.
Hmm.
All of that can be done later. So we continue to train people, now a little bit online, but but it is a physical therapy, and I still have a bias that at one point we need to feel in touch.
Right. Great. So the um, I know that in your book you also mentioned about simple solutions of stress, and you also have a program that would help people, how to cope with stress. Maybe you can just tell us a little
Sure.
briefly about simple solutions for stress, because with the COVID and this pandemic, and a lot of people having, suffering from different challenges, and stress level goes up. And as medical professionals, we know that what are the consequences, the cortisol and everything else. So please tell us, yeah, and
Okay.
the audience a little more about your simple
Sure,
solution.
sure. So I have under simplesolutionsforstress.com. There's a master class which is available to everyone, so to the public and to healthcare practitioners. And it's really just it's education. It's education of why and how you can work with the body to basically bring down cortisol levels,
Mm.
how you bring people into parasympathetic mode, how the body stores emotional information and trauma. So it really explains how we're made, and how we function, and why, like, there's other ways of relaxing our systems, like breathing is
Mm.
wonderful, meditation is wonderful. But why I want people to know about this is that sometimes people say, well, I don't know how to meditate. I can't sit here. My thoughts keep invading. I sit, but it doesn't work or whatever. So it's another way. That's it. And it's a way as well that you can do with your family. So you can't do it to yourself, which is in the sense it's not self-help.
Mm.
It's helping another, but you can do it in the family. So I've had 13-year-olds learn how to do this for
Mm.
their parents. I've had couples do it for each other. And there's nothing more incredible than getting a, let's say, half an hour with breaks, because the body has to respond to the therapy. So you
Right.
do a few little moves, then you take a break. Then you
Mm.
do a few more moves, take a break. Meanwhile, they're going deeper and deeper into relaxation and often into sleep.
Mm.
So it feels fabulous and it just decreases the stress. And so that's what I want. Yeah, I was so excited when some of my own patients, said, well, you've helped my brother. Now I'm going to take over and help my brother. I said, absolutely.
Right. It's very interesting. It's basically helping others, like, and it's not age related, as you said, like a 13-year-old could do it, or
Exactly.
and couples can help each other, family members, and it's interesting that so it wouldn't work on the person himself or herself.
No, I mean, in the actual technique, if you actually, as a practitioner, learnt it fully,
Mhm.
there are moves like, if I twisted my knee, I know how to fix that myself.
Mhm.
For a acute emergency, or my daughter used to do
Mhm.
Highland dancing. I
Mhm.
can do her ankle, but I
Yeah.
have no coordination to figure out how to do mine, for example. So, some of it can be done, some not. But I think the beauty of this, and especially in this time period, is,
Mhm.
and part of healing is also is helping others. It really is that. And the pleasure for some of these younger kids or your spouse who, wants to help you often but doesn't know how to, they can learn this and they can do it and in very little time.
Mhm.
So and that's actually all online. It
Mhm.
can all be learned online. So I
Yeah.
mean, you won't be a crazy expert, but good enough that you get results.
Yeah. I know we are almost to the end of this conversation. Unfortunately, the time is very limited, but I wanted to know, maybe a lot of our audience also in the as I read your bio in the beginning, were curious probably to know that you mentioned also in your email, sorry, in your bio, it says that the you actually overcame stage 4 cancer yourself without even pharmaceutical
Yeah.
help. Yes. Can you please just tell
The
the
short,
audience a little more about that?
the short version.
In the short version.
Yeah, again, it's not a prescription, right? Everyone has to choose their path. But for me, it became clear that, and again, you've got to realize that I already had a naturopathic degree.
Mhm.
So I already knew what could be possible and how people could heal. So when I was diagnosed, I had to figure out, how did this happen? Really, because I was eating organic, I was exercising and moving, so many things
Mm.
would make me think, oh, this can't be. And it wasn't genetic per se. Uh, I was actually um, in what I call a cancerous relationship
Mm.
with myself, but also with the partner I had at the time.
Mm.
So it's really the impact of living under so much stress that my body just, the only way it could express itself was to express itself with a cancer. And again, I prove this? No. But when I made the decision that removing my uterus was not the best thing for me, I was determined to deal with the real problem. And I trusted that my body would go in the direction of healing when I went in the direction of healing. And I asked the hospital at the time, will you look at, not look after me, but will you allow me to check if what I'm doing works? Because I have 3 kids, right? I am not planning on dying here, and I don't want to be stubborn. Not sometimes the best idea doesn't work, so I wanted to stay very open, but that wasn't an option. I either had to do it their way or find another way to do it. And so it was like, oh my goodness, that was very hard. And there was, of course, no understanding, tons of guilt. How could you do this? You have 3 children. This is absolutely ridiculous. But when you're so aligned that with every cell in your body that you're making the right decision for you, you can't go against that. And it just shifted absolutely everything. And then I found a doctor that was willing to look at me, who came from the Eastern Bloc, slightly different understanding of health and healing. And then I confirmed 3 months later, I had nothing left. And I used different things. I used my own internal work, my own methodology of really listening to my body. And I also used Bowen therapy to relax my body. And I used homeopathy, which also helped because I could see that emotionally there was lots of things going on that I needed support with. So it wasn't a one-way thing. It was several things, but I felt empowered and in charge of my own destiny. And I think that really helps. I felt like it was the right cancer that was removed.
When was that exactly? Like,
Oh my
how long
goodness.
ago?
So now that would be, my youngest is 22. So 23, yeah, she was 1 year
Wow,
old. Can't do my math, 21 years ago. So I'm definitely, I'm here.
that's amazing. That's amazing. And you said that you did all the follow-up checkups and everything. Everything is gone, and you're,
Yeah.
of course, after like 20 years, and you've been active. It's been a while that we know each other, and I know your passion in health and how you help and how active and busy you are.
Yeah.
And that's really amazing. That's very inspiring, message and what you did. Of course, we would love to hear more, but as I said, like the time is limited. We can definitely, and the audience would definitely want to know about the naturopathic and the Bowen College and all your amazing work. That's, as an example, what you did to yourself and how you are helping communities around you, not only in Canada, but also across the world. Please let our audience know how can they find you and learn more about your program.
Well, I think the easiest is probably to go to, what is it? What is it again?
The Simple Solutions for Stress.
Simple Solutions for Stress. There you go.
Mhm.
.com, because that gives you really a almost 2 hours, overview of everything. And otherwise you can go to bowencollege.com, which is my teaching website, or under my name, drmanonbolliger.com. And you'll see there's tips on health. There's all kinds of free things that are available to get you to look at it, look at life a little differently.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will benefit from your programs. And thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure and honor to have you on the show. And wish you all the best with the amazing work you're doing.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Amit.
And dear audience, for more amazing shows like this, please stay tuned with Dr. E. Thank you all and have a great day.